dance form. Tell us about yourself. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? How did you get into dance and bachata?
Well, I am from Norway, and I grew up in Norway, been living there all of my life. I've been dancing since I was 4 years old. So I started dancing ballet. I danced in the Norwegian National Ballet and Opera. And then after that, I explored more dance styles such as jazz, street jazz. And then I started to dance salsa by the age of 14, 15. And I was working with salsa for quite many years. And after that, I think I needed something different, and I really loved the bachata music. And I found a new partner that I saw the fit with the bachata fusion. So I started to dance bachata. I think that's now 7, 8 years ago. But I was still in Norway, still in Oslo. So, and we created this style that we called it a little different things. We called it bachata nueva. And then after that, we turned it into something that was called new groove, that we didn't really have time to do exactly what we wanted, but we were moving like further and further away from bachata at some point. So like, okay, we cannot call it bachata anymore. But then after that, I started to dance with Frank Santos. And so then I went back a bit more to the track of bachata. And after that, we dance everything. So if it's sensual, fusion, Dominican, traditional, like call it whatever you want. So I'm a little like, yes, bachata is bachata. Of course, you have different styles within, but it's all bachata. So yeah.
Viva la bachata.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with you there. Gatica, I have so many questions and concerns and prayers about bachata or any of these dance forms. I want to get into like the heady philosophical industry stuff later on. I want to kind of go over just some real simple stuff to do with the dance and your dancing in particular first. And timing. Where did you learn your timing? What do you think as a teacher, what do you think the strongest direction is for students to take to improve timing?
Well, I think it's very important that they know the instruments of bachata. So they know why they're doing the basic, like a double step to each side is because of the bongo. That is important to actually listen to the music, because I think it's very many people that are not really listening. They're so focused about moving a lot and remembering the moves from the class or whatever. So they forget a bit like the listening part. So I think, yeah, the bass, the bongo, the requinto, and so on. I think that is important to really learn, know how the instrument sounds like, and to dance on that. And of course, you have the count 1 to 8. And like inside of a couple dance, you need to have basic rules. Since you're two people dancing with each other, you cannot just go crazy because you need to adapt to the other one. So with some simple rules, it's easier to follow and lead each other. So yeah, if your question was like what I think is important is more to actually learn how to listen to the instruments, what the instruments are telling you, and to teach students, for example, how they can play on the instruments, more than learning how to count to 8, because everyone can do that, hopefully.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense. What about for people who are uniquely challenged? And I think like the challenge of timing is it's not just a thing of like only beginners have it or only advanced dancers have it, because some advanced dancers, their timing really excels more than others. Like some people really focus in on it, and people's timing varies. And I think I'm asking the question to do with who's ever trying to make their timing better at this particular moment, right? When you're saying listen to the music more, do you remember any musical things that like confused you, or moments where you felt like you didn't hear something in the music and then it kind of it came out to you? Any like breakthrough moments that could maybe help other people understand how to get to the next timing level? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think that before I was dancing more sensual style, nueva, whatever that you want to call it, but more fusion, more than traditional bachata, if you're gonna call it that. And as a follower, you're kind of taught that you're not supposed to listen that much because you're supposed to listen to the leader. So if you're listening too much to the music, like for example, for me, if I hear something in the music, my body goes by itself. I can't just listen, like focus on the music and silent my body. Those two things doesn't go together. So I was used to try to listen more to the leader than listening to the music, if that makes sense.
Mm.
But then when I started to dance with Frank, he's Dominican, so for him, like all of the instruments and all of the history and all of this I learned from him, and he kind of like forced me to learn all the instruments, and he forced me to dance on the instruments, and he said, but you have to listen. Even though if I cannot move my arms or move my whole body, I can do small footwork that is on the instruments that make sense with the music. So if I would, it's no shortcuts. If I would give a tip to people how to develop now, it's you just have to listen again and again and again and again. On YouTube and on Spotify, for example, there is a lot of bachata breakdowns. You can see musicians, you can have only the bongo with the bass and all kind of mix. So I think that's a good way to learn and to try to dance on, for example, only the bongo or only the bass and see where that leads you. Um, After that, after you know what the different instruments are and what you can do on them, I would say to just loosen up and try not to think. After you've done a lot of thinking, step two is not to think and just let your body flow a little, and yeah, it's like dance like no one is watching. I think that is important because if you overthink the musicality, I don't think it's going to come out natural. But if you kind of like let the body just go with the flow, I think that can help. It was my way to learn how to dance with the music anyhow.
I like your explanation a lot. That makes a lot of sense. It speaks to me too because I was first, like I am first a musician, so I first played music, and there's this massive amount of repetition and listening and repetition and listening, and then you get to these points where you're like, okay, now I can be creative, or and it definitely it's a challenge. I I think sometimes people will well, let me, instead of saying what I think, I want to ask you what you think of dancing. So say you're dancing to a song that isn't either it's a minimalistic bachata, like you were dancing to a wonderful flamenco bachata remix,
Oh, yeah.
leading someone, I think. It was like pop flamenco. Yeah, it definitely, there was like a heavy focus on flamenco guitar, and I can't remember the name of the song.
We're talking about Un Beso with Aventura.
Maybe like a concert version of that, where they were doing the flamenco solo.
I don't remember. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I really liked it, but my point was that what if you're dancing to a song where you're either where those instruments aren't there? Because some remixes, including some good remixes, don't have all of those instruments. Um, do you? What should your ear focus on if you're not hearing the bongo, the bass, the traca traca and all that stuff? What should you focus on?
I would say if these instruments, if the bongo, if the bass, if the requinto, and so on is not there, it's not a bachata. Uh, but if you mean that it's more like flat, that you don't hear it, like you don't hear the instrument pop out, well, you have the basic. I guess you should be able to hear like the count like 1 to 8, but you hear the bongo. It's impossible not to hear that. But
Sometimes the only reason I ask is because I really do like some remixes, and we've had some DJs on this show where we talk about their evolution as a DJ, and sometimes they really understand how to put all those in. I'm talking for remixes. Obviously, if it's like a bachata, it's a bachata. But if it's a remix,
should have the instruments, and most of them or many of them do.
They mostly do, yes. Sometimes I find some of them will have less, or anyway, because I like you were saying, that whole fusion thing.
Mm,
Sometimes it's wonderful when you see and magical when you watch pros who are even in a salsa or a kizomba or zouk dancing to the original, to just a song that isn't there. It's not bachata or it's not zouk, and I love that as well. I
yeah, I did that a lot before, and it's how can I explain it? Like, also one thing that I love to do is to move on the voice, on the singing part, on the lyrics. Uh, but it's also like an instrument for the music, I would say. The singer is also an instrument. As the dancer is also an instrument, it's the silent instrument. But the work of the dancer is to show what instruments they are dancing on in the music, I will say.
okay.
But if you don't hear the instruments clear, but there is a singer, I will go for that. And I think that if you come to that point that you actually dare to let loose, because I think it's a matter if you dare or not.
Mm.
Uh, I think that the body will kind of like find its way, because the body will pick up on the instrument singer or whatever what it is,
Mm.
like to what is most clear.
I like it. That's a fantastic explanation. What's your favorite drink for bachata times?
Oh, it happened to be for bachata times, Cuba Libre, maybe because everyone has it. Or, but I would say, like, if I'm going to choose a favorite drink, I would choose Campari with tonic.
Mm.
Mm,
Okay. For the
yeah.
more advanced nuevo bachatero. What about footwear? What about shoes? I noticed in some of your videos, I love that you were dancing. You weren't always in heels. What's your philosophy on footwork? What's your favorite footwear, shoes?
I can say that I like one more than the other. I think that flat shoes is definitely more comfortable, but depends on the mood of the day. It depends what style I want to go for. It depends, yeah, on my mood basically. I don't feel that I need to wear heels all the time. I don't think it's necessary. And also I dance usually every day, and during the festivals I dance hours and hours and hours, so that I give my feet a little rest every once in a while, I think is healthy.
I agree. I love watching follows dance in both. I really like dancing with follows and sneakers myself personally, but I
Usually
like
they have more balance.
within the footwork, and within the balance side of it. What are some things that need to be strengthened or that you need to be aware of when you're using sneakers or um, or heels? Because sometimes people are newer to heels, or they've never danced in sneakers. What are some words of advice about maybe training, conditioning, anything to do with dancing correctly to your shoes?
I would say that a tip going from dancing or not used to wearing heels or dancing in heels is to try to have the balance a bit more on the front of the foot. To have the balance on the ball of your toe instead of having the balance back on the heel. Because obviously it's making it more difficult to have the balance because you have the heel there. And also just having your balance more in front when you dance is going to make you easier and faster. Also you move your feet faster when you have the balance in front. So, and definitely I think it's easier to dance in real dance shoes instead of normal heels. I dance in normal heels too, and my feet hurts way more after. Because if you have a good shoe brand, then you also have like extra support around the ankle, and it's softer how it moves, so you're more free to move your feet to point and so on. So
Do
I
you,
would suggest to use real dance shoes.
do you have any preferences yourself? Obviously, you're not getting paid for that endorsement right now, but do you have any preferences? Because often people ask me and other teachers that work at our school, what's the best kind of dance shoes?
Yeah, well, one of my previous sponsors was G Franco from US. So I've been wearing G Franco shoes for the last 3 years, and I really love them. They're soft for me. The foot, like how my foot is inside, is perfect, and yeah, they have a lot of different styles also. So I like them. Um, I I'm quite picky when it comes to brands, also because my feet are very narrow. So I need like a certain type of shoe so I don't fall and have my toes in front on the floor, which I don't like at all. This dinosaur thing, I don't like this. So I need something that keep my foot inside of the shoe. So yeah, I like it's something that you have to try. Like for me, for example, to order dance shoes online, it's something for me personally I would never do. I need to try them and I need to feel how it fits and so on. But yeah.
I like that suggestion a lot. What do you look for in a lead? And let me preface that by saying I'd love to hear anything to do with that question. Beginner, intermediate, advanced, someone you really know. What do you look for in them? Someone you don't know, what you look for in them. Any of these nuances, because I feel like that there's so many leads out there, and they're always trying to do their best, get to the next level. If someone asks you to dance, what are the things that you, from the beginning to the end, that you like and don't like?
I would say that it has to start as a respectful question. I like to have the question, do you like to dance, instead of let's dance. That I stopped. I don't dance with this kind of creatures. I stopped that. Then I'm like, no, I don't want to dance. Um, so yes, first of all, I would like to have the question. Then on the dance floor, I like if the person looks at me. For me, that's very important. I I had quite many people that ask me to dance and they can go a full song without looking me in the eyes once. They're looking over my shoulder, looking to the side, up, down, everywhere else. And I'm like, hello, I'm trying to get attention.
So I have a question about that. I've had many people ask me about the idea of looking into someone's eyes. For lots of people, eye contact, direct eye contact is tough, right? It's not the same for everybody. And sometimes I'll just have people get nervous about it. They're just like, I don't know where to look. If I look in their eyes, it feels too personal. Maybe this is just a Seattle thing, but how do you feel about that? Is it like consistent eye contact? Do they occasionally give you a glance to let you know they're there? And if not, where else are they looking? Do they close their eyes? Yeah.
um, I like to think about dance as a conversation. So if you think about having a conversation with someone, if you stare into that person's eyes all the time and you don't even blink, it's going to be quite creepy. I would say it's the same thing for dance.
Just a little.
A little creepy. If you if you talk, if you have a conversation with a person, closing your eyes most of the time is like the person is going to think that something is wrong. Now that's a little difference, of course, on the dance floor, because some bachateros can really feel the music and it's very much like that. Still, I like the person I dance with to have this moment with me instead of having that moment by himself. So I think like somewhere it has to be somewhere in between, definitely. But of course, if you have a conversation and that person is not looking at you at all, you're going to start looking around. It's like, who are you talking to? It's as simple as that. I don't think it's doesn't have to be much complicated. It's just like normal manners, I would say. And then of course it depends on the vibe, on the person you're dancing with. If you have a good connection, you can have different kind of connections with different kind of people. So some people you feel comfortable looking at more than others. Some people you smile with, some people others. But I think it's important that you're trying to adapt yourself to that other person. I think that's important. Instead of like living in your own world, doing what you're gonna do, yes or yes, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, man, I love those just those looks at that. I have I experienced unique things to do with just vision because for one thing, I'm vision impaired. So like my eyesight works a little differently. And I do remember that for years, I felt like I had an advantage when I would close my eyes. I could directly hear the music. I could feel my partner and I could do things that match with the music. But when I open my eyes, sometimes I think even that there's like cultural stigmas around where you're looking. And it's some people sometimes aren't used to, and I am talking more mostly as beginners, but like having the confidence to stand up is hard for some people just to like stay lifted. There's no reason why, but it's just kind of hard to have that confidence for people. And sometimes eyesight is the same thing for leads also, because sometimes you want to be respectful, and it's yeah, I definitely think that this is part of lead follow. What about to do with lead follow technique for you? Once you're comfortable with them, um, do you prefer? There's kind of two different styles of leading that I associate with. One of them is where you do the movement with the follow, and one of them is where it's more directive. Not always bad, right? But like it's just more you're reserved and you get the follow to do something like a wave versus you doing it with them. How do you fit into that? What do you prefer?
Um, I think that has to be a mix. If the leader is going to do all the movements with me, I think that would be a little overkill. I think maybe it would feel and look the same way. I'm not sure, but I like that the leader is kind of, I'm not saying that the leader should not dance. I'm not saying that, but the leader has to be a little like the rock. Say that the leader is the painter and the follower is the paint, is the picture that he is painting. So he is painting art, and it's a little how I like to see it with the leader and the follower. But again, I'm not saying that the leader should not have style, should not dance, should not move, because definitely, but he or she has to be stable, first of all. So me, for example, when I lead, I first care about the follower, and after I take care of myself. I think that's very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. What about in terms of classic question? How much do you feel that Zouk plays a role in your own personal dancing? Have you watched a lot of it? Have you done some of it? Um, do you like it? When I look at sensual or the fusion or nuevo bachata, I see things that could be influences, and I've heard different people say different things about that. What's your opinion on that?
I cannot say that my bachata is influenced by Zouk at all because I don't know how to dance Zouk. I've seen Zouk. I've tried to dance. I think I can count on one hand how many times I tried to dance Zouk, but I really like it. I think that if I would start to dance something again, it would have been Zouk. I really like also like that how much how you say variety in the music, how much different music you can play. I feel that it's more free somehow, and I'm all about freedom. I love freedom. But I don't think, talking about me, I don't see that Zouk is influencing my bachata a lot. But other dances, as jazz, as street, as modern, and all of these that I actually have some experience in, yes, that for me, I would say has more influence. Even though I understand that people are saying that in general, that bachata fusion or bachata sensual has some influence from Zouk, but again, it's not the Zouk doesn't have the first dancers that took a head roll. For example, you do a head roll in so many styles of dance, and you do ripples and you do waves, and you so. But of course, it's a big part of the couple dance Zouk, But for me personally, no.
I did notice a lot of different influences in your dancing. I saw that jazz in the street. I really noticed your chest and arm extension and how you used that. I like that it's minimal, but when you use it, you have access to a lot of flexibility and strength through your back and through your chest. Where did you get that? And maybe what are some suggestions to attain that for us mere mortals?
um, well, I danced ballet for 10 years, so I think that definitely when it comes to the extension and arms, that is a factor. But I think that the last year, maybe like 3, 4 years, I've been focusing a lot about breathing when I dance. So for me, when it comes to line, arm movements, everything is to do with my breathing. Uh, so for example, when I go to festivals and I have ladies asking me for private classes, we always end up doing breathing exercises out to the arm, because I think that everything starts here in the center. If I'm moving my arms by itself, it doesn't look the same as if I connected with the rest of my body. So um, yeah, so if I'm going to give a suggestion, then is to really work with the breathing. I have also videos teaching this breathing technique. So yeah, I think it's the only thing I can say with that. Really focusing about the breathing and go part by part. There's no need to rush any movements. Go
I
slow, go hard, push it.
I think that's what I noticed, because obviously when you play the ballet card, everyone's just like, whatever. I didn't want to hear that, because it's like saying, well, you got to go to school to do it. But the breathing thing, honestly, there's a lot of people out there in the world of ballet and other dance forms that have good chest extension. But it was just what you did with it that I noticed, that it had stretch, and it didn't feel like you just would strike a pose and then hold it there. I could see that there was stuff going on that you were in control of and that you were comfortable with. So I really liked it. Yeah, when I noticed it in several points. So let's see. I had so many different things. Let's talk about Europe and the States. No judgment, but I'm constantly interested in these waves and patterns of these dance forms. They start in one place, they move to somewhere else, they come back. You get stars from Norway, you get stars from, Colombia, and everyone kind of influences it and it changes. Sensual bachata here in the States, I'm often told, is quite different from how it is in Europe. After you take that drink, how is it different? How do you feel that those differences are apparent?
I don't see that it's very different. Maybe especially last years, because you have dancers coming from States here to Europe, and they're sorry. They're learning from the instructors here, and then they go back to the US and teach this style there. Here, for example, where I am now, I'm in Barcelona, which is kind of like the capital of bachata right now. It's so many bachata instructors living in Barcelona. So when you go out, like you have very good dancers everywhere, basically, where you go. And I think that it's been taking time to develop this. It's been taking 10, 15 years to develop like a strong advanced dancing, if you're talking about the advanced dancers. So I think that it just takes time to develop. And I know that now, I don't know, you tell me, how long has people been dancing fusion and more sensual style in the US? How many years?
I really started noticing it being a big thing maybe 3 years ago. But that's just me. I know it was going on. I heard about it a lot, but it didn't have the same momentum in the States. It didn't have the same kind of not as many people had traveled from here to Spain and then come back. There was a lot of people that took teachers courses. And we, in Seattle, where I am, we have a huge zouk scene. Like we've had a very big zouk scene, and sensual kind of came in, and now I think the sensual scene's probably bigger, definitely bigger actually, yeah. But and everyone pretty much calls it sensual bachata. I don't hear it often referred to as fusion, and that interests me because, well, I like fusion. I like any kind of fusion. When you say that, is that a term that is common in Europe right now?
Yes, definitely. I will say that it will maybe be like three big styles, which is Dominican, more related to footwork, sensual, and fusion. And that's the three like styles that are dominating right now. And for the fusion is a big word. It's such an open word, so it can basically be whatever. And I know that, for example, like what Jorge is saying about sensual is that it's a fusion, because it's a fusion within bachata. But the name of this fusion style, he called it sensual. I know that, for example, you have Abdel and Letty. I don't know if you probably know who they are.
Abden?
Abdeliletti.
Abdelilet.
Yeah, they have a style that is called bachata flow, and it's very inspired by street jazz, hip hop, and so on. So that is bachata fusion. If you have bachata mixed with flamenco, it's bachata fusion. Bachata mixed with whatever what it is, it's bachata fusion. You can't. It's kind of like you can't be wrong calling it bachata fusion.
I like it. Yeah, I don't take exception to the name. I like it a lot. I just I haven't heard it, maybe just as I'm a studio owner, so I haven't heard people like, hey, do you have any bachata fusion classes? It's either, do you have bachata, or do you have sensual bachata, or Dominican? What about, I had written down actually to talk to you about flamenco a little bit, but also, flamenco and the street dances you're talking about, how do they influence that? How does it make it look different or feel different?
Well, for me, well, this is for me personally. For example, I haven't danced flamenco. I don't know how to dance flamenco. I love to watch it, but I don't know how to dance it. So I would not be able to mix flamenco with bachata. I can't call it, if I do this, then it's flamenco. For me, it doesn't work like that. But say for another style that I have danced and that I love is tango. So I've been trying for a long time, and I tried hard to mix these two. I didn't try this with the tango dancer. Maybe it would be easier, but I think it's very complicated to mix these two styles. But because you don't have the weight the same way. In tango, you are more leaning on each other, and you're taking more each other's weight, maybe more like in zouk, not the same way, but you have these elements I've seen in zouk too. But I think that, but this is again my personal opinion, if it's gonna be a fusion of a good quality, it should be something that you're actually experienced in. You can't just do a pirouette and then suddenly it's ballet inspired. It has to be something that you know, and you know what you're talking about, for me.
So yesterday we had a wonderful Argentine tango teacher on, Eleonora Kalganova.
I love her.
She's wonderful, right? So we had her on the show yesterday, totally geeking out about tango. And she was talking about, kind of being a ballroom dancer and a ballet dancer, taking a tango dancing class for the first time, and how she was just doing tons of embellishments and moving her feet. And the instructor was like, no, don't do that. And she was like, why not? Where do you set that line? Say you're dancing with someone and they come from like a different dance background, and you have your dance background. How much of that is it cool to put in before it's, I don't know, could be confusing? Like, how do you handle that? Say you have your street style and you're dancing with someone you haven't danced with before. How much of that street style will you let yourself bring out?
That completely depends on the other person. I think that at the second that you feel like you're not sharing something together, then it's too much. So if you feel that you are on the same page, if I would bring out street and the other, the guy is the tango dancer, and it's easy. You feel on the whole body language, the eyes says a lot. That's why I like people to actually look at me when they dance with me. But you get the whole tone. So if the guy is like, oh, what are you doing, what's going on, then you should see this, and you should be observant when it comes to this, and tone it down. Well, I would start very slow. I like to start all of my dances very like in a, how you say, neutral point, and I bring a little and a little and a little and a little. I never start a dance doing a lot of styling. If it's bachata, tango, street, whatever what it is, the first at least 30 seconds of a song I use to get to know this person, how he takes the music, how he leads, how his body language is replying to the music, and so on. So I would try to add a little by little instead of adding a lot and take it down.
That makes complete sense. Yeah. And it's funny when we do these interviews over Zoom, of course, like I have to look at the camera to look in your eyes. But when I do look at like where you are there, you do have that really direct, confident gaze, which is awesome, because it actually, it really invites the other person into that space. Really, really cool. Gatica, within that that freedom, let's talk about tango here. I played around with a little bit of tango years ago, just taking some classes, and I was around people that were professionals, and they'd be like, here, I'll show you a little thing. The thing I loved about it was that commitment to and comfort level with staying on a foot or not staying on a foot, without having that preconceived idea of like, I have to go into the basic. And I feel that that's one of the cool things about tango when it fuses with bachata, because you can do stuff in the cross, for instance. Like I love doing stuff in the cross within bachata, where, you know, we're not in mirror footwork, where I'm on my left foot, you're on your right, because it opens up all these cool, just interesting possibilities. And also tango, like its willingness to stay on that one foot, gives it a great ability to do centrifugal counterbalance work. I noticed some really cool counterbalance work that you were doing. Where do you get that from? Where does your technique for that counterbalance stuff come from?
It can only come from tango. I think it's the only style that I've danced that has these kind of things. But it's it has happened. I've been dancing bachata with people that dance tango, but it's like, it's very hard to really have a good fusion because of this balance thing. To make a person stay on one leg in bachata, it's like you're kind of telling the person to ignore the instruments of bachata. You're telling them to ignore the bongo, and bongo is why we do the basic and so on. So it's difficult to lead a tango lead to a bachata dancer that doesn't know how to dance tango. I can recognize if I dance with a tango dancer, but I dance bachata, I can recognize the leading. It's like, okay, he's taking me here and he wants me to stay. But if I didn't dance tango before, I wouldn't have understood that. So I still have hope, and I still, I really hope that someday someone or myself would find a good bachatongo or bachatanga, bachatongo fusion. But I think it's a massive work because you have to change both of the forms a little.
I think in order for that to happen, and I think the industry of partner dance would need to see more cross-contaminating competition, honestly. Like I always go back to mixed martial arts and MMA. You used to have all these different martial arts that each one of them would take, 2 lifetimes to get good at. You had to have a really long beard by the time you did it, right? And then because of this influence of like a higher cash prize and competition, they all started mixing it up, and they kind of crystallized the really important or the predominant things of each art form, and they were able to get it so you could, as a fighter, get reasonably good at punching or on the ground, and they like elevated the training level. I would love to. I like it when I see high level dancers at your level dancing with someone from another dance form and just going for it, because I see magical things happen there, right? You see really what works and what doesn't. They're both at a high level trying to figure each other out, and I love that, right? So I think that in order for these fusions to happen like that, people have to see what it looks like at that high level to try to make a weight transfer work for someone who's used to it. You know, I love that subject, but let me
make it. You need a tango dancer and a bachata dancer to figure it out together. I don't think you can have two bachata dancers that taking a couple of courses in tango and suddenly they're going to start to do a fusion. I don't think that will work. I think you need a professional on each side.
That's so true. It's so true. Because then when you get that, you constantly get this regurgitation of things that aren't. It's like you said, the flamenco arms. You were like, I was trying to do my choreography. We took a private with someone who did flamenco, and you know, and you got exactly. So I totally agree with that. Yeah. What in other art forms, in other dance forms, do you have favorite artists that you like, either in the solo dance world, like, because you mentioned street or tango, or in like West Coast swing, salsa, kizomba?
I would say that the people that I follow the most is maybe street dancers, and I love this girl from LA. Her name is Jojo Gomez. She is amazing. Also, I found this new guy. Like I don't think he is very new, but he is amazing. This guy I can really watch for hours and hours. I think he has something super special. Zach Milne.
How do you spell that?
I don't like this. I don't know. You see?
Let's see. I'm sure that it's there. I can rewind. If I get too close to the camera, you're going to see my nose hairs, and I don't want you to do it.
Sorry, it's Set ACCMILNE.
Okay, well that's cool. I'm gonna check those both out. I love hearing about new artists. Very, very cool. I love it. Within these these times right now, you've been teaching online, is that correct?
No, I haven't. Not yet.
Okay.
Actually, I've been doing. I like to do a little different than everyone else. It's a blessing and a curse. So I've been trying to mix it up a little. So I've been giving feedbacks on people's videos. So I would say that is as close as I and people can get to a private class. So because now like everyone is with their phone, so I think more or less everyone has a video of themselves dancing, social dancing in a class, at home practicing or whatever. So I've been saying to people that they can take a video or two as they have from before, send it to me, and I will give them a feedback on what I think that they can improve on. And it's been working very good. I've been keeping myself quite busy in front of the computer, but it's quite much work. I write it quite like thorough. I use an hour more or less on every feedback that I'm giving. So people have responded very good to it.
So you're taking someone's social dance or performance video.
Yeah.
and then you're analyzing it, and then you're giving them feedback.
Exactly.
I
And
think
on
that's
some
really
things,
cool.
if it's technical things that I can explain, then also I have videos after that in the video I can explain more how they can work on it. But this is like, it's not a full class. It's like a 15-20 minutes video with technical exercises that they can play again and again and again.
What do you think the biggest impediment to learning is? Like, what stops people from learning and getting better?
I think that either they lose the motivation because they feel that it has stopped. That can be of whatever reason, if it's themselves, their life situation, if it's their teacher that maybe they don't feel as inspired by their teacher, and maybe they don't have any others to go to. It can be many things, but that they feel that they stopped and they don't know how to pass this part. Or maybe because they feel that they're good enough, they can survive on the dance floor, and that's all they wanted in the first place. Or they want to get attention by the other sex, and that's what they got. It can be many things. I don't think that it's a big percentage of people stepping into the Latin scene thinking, I'm going to become a professional dancer. Of course, there is some, and especially people that more and more now the last years with social media and so on, that are thinking, yeah, I want to be a bachata star, or I want to be a artist, and I want to make money on dance and travel. Now it's maybe more than before, but I think a lot of people feel that, yeah, they reach the level to survive on the dance floor, and then they're happy. They can go out and party, they can go out and meet people, and they're probably surviving more than the rest of their friends that are non-dancing. So they feel quite cool.
Do you think this is, my goal is always to drive the industry as not just like an industry for the sake of the financial transaction, but also to make these dance forms known to more people, to give more people the opportunity. What are some things that you think could be changed in a perfect world to make your the things you love about the partner dance you do grow, get to more beginners, get to more classes? In the perfect world.
If I in my perfect world, I would stop. Oh, people are gonna hate me for this.
No, this is the time for it. This is when better.
In my world, these big dance pages on Instagram and so on that has a lot of followers, they would not share these bikini dances or dance where it's only focusing about the ass. If it's not working, then it should focus on the ass. And people that cannot dance, but they're just taking their clothes off to be on these big channels, that would stop. And the focus will go more back on the dance. I think that this can scare some people off, and I understand it. So that's for number one. And for number two, I think that like when it comes to all of these social dances, if you're a person that likes to dance, you can definitely find yourself. So as a teacher, and also because I had my own school in Norway, I had a school of mostly bachata, but also salsa, it was souk, kizomba, and so on. It's basically just to inspire, and not to inspire only by being a good dancer. I think, for example, having a dance school, being a good teacher is more important than being a good dancer. And I think to make people feel at home, that you are, when I say you, I mean in general, you're on the same level as the students. Because I know also that some artists or teachers, when they become a dance teacher and walk into the dance studio, they're the king and they're the queen, and they feel a little different. But I think that the thing that will draw people and keep people is to really have this family feeling that everyone is people, and you're having a good time together.
I absolutely love what you're saying there, and it is a it's an interesting thing to approach, because for one thing, you've got the reality of trends, and this reality of trends, the way I see it, with no judgment or no shaming, because I agree with you 100%. And I also want to get into, I don't know how you're doing on time. We're getting close to that point. I love this conversation though. Do you have time to go 5 minutes over?
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, really cool. Well, we've struggled with this one a lot, because if you're trying to advertise, ultimately, you know the term thirst trap online? Thirst trap, I didn't actually know what it meant either until kind of recently, and that just shows how old I am. But essentially, thirst trap is a new way of kind of expressing a picture or a video where the main objective is to make people sexually interested in you, or like the word is titillated. That's what Tim Gunn would have used. It's like you excite them, as opposed to doing a video where you just see the dancing, or, you know. I find that most of the dance forms have to go through a cycle where there's a lot of thirst trap advertising, because it gets a lot of people on board. It's easy to get people to be like, woohoo, you know, we can feel our sexuality and be sensual, and it's still safe. But ultimately, I think that it then ends up defining and holding the business back, because you have to rely on that, and you can't be sexier than sexy. Eventually there's someone, you know, you get to your sexy threshold, and people want to see more substance, and the artists themselves also, they get more mature. They're like, I liked that for 5 minutes, but now I like this. And but we have absolutely always seen correlations between, if you really create a safe space that does have codes of conduct, that does have like a process to how you do that, where it's not just everyone do whatever they want. It creates a lot of challenges, because you have to draw these lines and say, you know, this is cool, this isn't. We did it though, and we really found that it was very beneficial to the community and to the scene. And I applaud you for saying that, because these days I try not to bring it up myself as much, because I don't want to shame people around it, you know, but I notice it. I'm like, how many videos are you going to see where it's the bikini? And I'm just like, I want to see the dancing. I want to see how they communicate, you know, that real thing. On the positive note though, dancing is super sexy, right? It just, as a thing. What do you do to stay in shape within it? Maybe are there any tips for people that you use that help your flexibility? And you can't use the ballet card. You can't say 10 years ballet. So in the here now, like flexibility, strength, technique.
I just want to say one thing before that. I think that what you're saying with the sexiness, the sensuality, and all of this, I think is very important, because all of like Latin dance, it is sensual, it is passionate, but I think it's a huge difference with some dancers that are thinking, we gonna make this look steamy, instead of having two dancers that is just really passionate about what they're doing, and they really feel the music. And I don't know, at least me, I feel that I see the difference between them. They do this because they want me to look at that, because it's supposed to be hot, or it's supposed to be sexy. Or I see two dancers that are like, oh my God, they're feeling it. It's two different kind of sexy. And I think that part where you have the dancers that are really feeling it, I think that's much more appealing, and also takes more attention from people, because people are thinking, I want to do that. I want to feel like her. I want to dance with someone like him. I want someone to look at me the way he looks at her. I want to be touched in that way, because it's genuine. It's not made for no reason. I think those two are very big differences.
It's huge, Gatica. They're huge differences, and I want to say I want to say from the other side, it's also hugely fucking confusing to people, because you get a new dancer, say you get a lead or a follow, it doesn't matter, right? Guy or girl, it doesn't have to be gendered. And they come into the dance form and they were like, ah, yeah, Latin dancing, sexy. Yeah, I know bikinis. I'll take a class. It's not going to be like that. They take their class. And then they learn moves, or they see moves. And they're like, well, that's what I saw. You know, like you touch the person's face and it's totally cool. And they don't, like, there's years that went into understanding when that's cool and when it's not. So you get people who honestly,
People
I
still
think,
don't get that.
you're not down with the face touching.
People still don't get that. They still touch your face and dancing with 100 people before you. You don't know where their hands have been. You don't know the last time they cleaned their hands, not even talking about the coronavirus, but like in general. And then they touch your face. And for me, I'm like, but who are you? and why you do that? Or touch my hair? Don't touch my hair. If you know me, or if you feel that we have a connection. So if you try and I smile, then I feel like I'm inviting you. I'm saying like, it's okay. But if you have to look at the person, you have to see how the person is taking this. If you touch the hair and you see that the person backs off, okay, that's it. No more touching.
Do you have particular signals, again, for, like, say a lead is doing something and it hasn't gone to code red yet. It's not like, back the hell off, or I'm gonna kick your ass. It's more just like, you just weren't down with it. You didn't like it, right? What are some subtle signals? What are some less than subtle signals that you typically would use on the dance floor?
I would maybe first look away. I would like, but look away in a way that the guy understands that I'm looking away on purpose.
Leads,
like, oh.
Pay attention here.
Or if the guy don't understand that, I would probably try to take a little distance from the guy using my arms, especially as a follower. I have my left arm on his shoulder and my hand usually is behind, but it's very easy to bring this hand in front, and I have it on his chest. And here, no one is getting close here. I have a lot of strength. You cannot pass this.
And then he's like, oh, she's feeling my heartbeat. I get it. Okay, she wants more of that energy. No.
Your heart is not on that side. So that doesn't work. No, but I would really use my frame to say like, that's enough. And if the guy like would still try, I would, instead of putting on a bitchy face through the whole song, because I don't think that's good. I don't think it works, because the guy have no idea why. Probably, or maybe, I would say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with that. Can you please stop doing it? And if you say that in a nice and polite way, then I think it's okay. There's no need for any bitchiness or dramatic things. It's just, I don't like it. Can you stop, please? And I think the guy has to take that good. If you don't take that good, okay, then go and dance with someone else. As easy as that.
I friggin' love this stuff you're saying. This is such important stuff for the evolution of the dance. And anyone who's listening to this and is in any position in the dance world, even if you're just a social dancer, you can exponentially make this thing grow by more intelligent applications of the stuff you're talking about here, Gatica. It does grow because it's safer. You can let more people in. At the same time, I really like what you're saying about giving the guy or the lead a chance, because it could be a girl leading you, or, you know, give them a chance, because sometimes maybe they just were misinformed. They took the wrong class with a teacher who had just smoked enough weed that day and had a fight with his girlfriend. And he was like, you grab her and blah, blah, blah. And it was just him that day, right? And so you didn't realize that when you make those uncomfortable faces, because I saw a lead one time who was like just making faces and like breathing really hard. And it wasn't what I would call in the moment. It was more just like, I felt like he saw that somewhere and he thought that's bachata, right? He didn't, you know. So I like that you're saying you give the person a second chance to correct it. It's so simple what you're saying. Yeah, I just don't like that. This, you know, let's change the topic, you know, let's go somewhere else with it. And then, but at a certain point, there is a cutoff point, like you're saying, where you're like, no mas.
Right. If I say something and if the guy would take that bad when I say it in a nice way, if he would say no, do as I say, I'll say okay, bye, and I go. I'm a person, and it doesn't matter if you're on the dance floor or where you are. I have my limits. If you don't want to respect that, I'm out of here. I'm gonna go. As easy as that. And I think usually I talk about this especially in my lady silent classes when I travel around. I think it's very important, and I think it's important for the artists to set an example, to say that it's okay to say no. Like it's you're not rude, but if you feel that he's too rough, for example, I can't, if people hold me here, I can't take it. I do this. That's my reaction. I don't like it. It's like, well, why you have to grab me like this? Ask for my hand. I will give it to you. And if I have this, if I take my hand out and he does it again, I say, can you don't do that, please. If he's gonna do it again, I say, but if you don't listen, I don't want to dance with you. And I think that the artists need to start doing that, because then people will follow. Because I understand that if you're a beginner and so on, you're already coming to the dance floor, maybe being a bit nervous, and you don't want to take these actions because you're not sure if that's your place, maybe, even though I would say it definitely is, because you're a human and that's the most principal thing. But I think it's very important that the teachers around teach the students that it's okay to say no, because it's your body. You decide what people do with your body. If you think people are leading too rough, if you don't like to do this, just say it, but say it in a nice way. Much better than giving a bitchy face for almost 5 minutes. You go away angry, the guy go away either angry or he don't know what happened. He's not going to improve. He's probably going to do the same again and again and again, all until a girl or maybe 5 girls told him that I don't like it.
Yeah,
So,
or until the club tells him you're not welcome back here, which can happen. Yeah.
but yeah, it can happen.
Gatica, I think it's important too for instructors to keep a consistent open mind, because these awarenesses change fast, and sometimes at a very fast rate for people. You're like, but I thought I was the respectful one. And you're like, well, you took the course 4 years ago when someone explained to you, no, this wasn't cool, but now maybe some newer things have happened. And I think this is constantly evolving as it gets fairer or more respectful, or as these role models develop, right? I just think it's important to constantly, for instructors, be kind of like taking the new advanced course on what is safe, what's respectful, what builds the strongest community, you know? So I'm basically just agreeing 100% with you. I just think it takes a lot of work on everyone's part, and certainly you guys as instructors, you know, just you being here and saying this right now really affects a lot of people. It gives them the empowerment to go, okay, it's that simple. I guess I'll just do it that way. I deeply appreciate having had you on the show, Gatica. You're fantastic. I hope sometime we can bring you to Seattle and have you teach classes here. I know that you'd have a lot of fans. And do you have any things you'd like to say before we close about where people can get a hold of you should they want to take one of these? I love what you said, review a video. So simple. Send you a social dance video or a performance. As an advanced dancer, you can really, really spend some good time picking it apart and giving feedback. Where can people get a hold of you for that?
It's very simple. My name is on all social media is Gatica Dance. So if it's on Facebook, on Instagram, YouTube, and now I also happen to follow the TikTok trend. So
yes,
yeah, so I'm there too. I'm quite new and a little slow, but so yes, it's Gatica Dance in all platforms. So definitely send me a message and I will give all of the information about this feedback.
I love it. And yes, TikTok. We just recently got a TikTok account. I believe in it. It is the future in some way to do with teaching dance. Gatica, thank you so much. I could say tack så jättemycket. Is that right? Does that work?
Oh,
That's
no,
Swedish.
it's a little Swedish, but yes, thank you.
Tack. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to have you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.